Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or you can give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And you're really going to want to give them a call because if you give Briar Greaves Insurance a call, let them see how they can help you with your insurance situation, you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free lower bowl section tickets for the Bucs home game later in the season in December against the Atlanta Falcons. That's a Thursday night football game, a primetime game, and the return of the creamsicle uniform. So definitely a fun one you're going to want to watch. Two pretty good teams, maybe a chance where the Bucs clinch the NFC South in that game. So that's definitely one that you're going to want to be at. So all you got to do is give Briar Greaves Insurance a call, see how they can help you, and you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free tickets in the lower bowl for Bucs versus Falcons in that Thursday night game a couple of weeks away. So definitely get on that and give Briar Greaves Insurance a call. It is a Thursday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. We're going to talk about a primetime game, but we're talking about Bucs versus Lions in Monday Night Football. It's our Thursday show, but it feels like a Wednesday type of day because we had Baker Mayfield, we had Todd Bowles, and it was the first kind of media availability in person today as the Bucs will practice tomorrow on Friday and on Saturday as well before their game on Sunday. So there's a lot to get into on today's show. I'm your host, Matt Patera. Joined with me is my co-host, Adam Slavon. Adam, how we doing?
Matt, we're doing great. Really excited to be on the show with you today. And as you mentioned, it does feel like a Wednesday a little bit. And there's so many upsides to this entertaining Monday Night Football matchup. But you have to wait until Monday to get there. And so you got to go through a whole Sunday slate. You know, you're on the edge of your seat waiting. But it's going to be such an entertaining matchup for multiple reasons. And for the Bucs, I think that starts in the injury front.
It really does. It was pretty much a day of returns for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans practiced for the first time since week 3 after getting injured in week 3. He participated, did some running, did some stretching, a little bit of throws as well. So that was great to see. We actually did an emergency podcast a little bit earlier in the day. That's still on our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. It's on Spotify, all the places you can listen to podcasts as well. So you could check that one out. So I go into the details of what Mike was doing, what it means for this team, as far as the depth at wide receiver, and I answered some questions as well. So make sure you check out that video emergency podcast talking about Mike Evans and his return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Adam, in your opinion, what does this do for Tampa Bay, specifically for this matchup against the Detroit Lions? What type of impact can this have?
I think this has a huge impact getting Mike back because you look at Detroit's secondary. Now they're down Brian Branch and Terrion Arnold isn't going to play. So they have a lot of injuries there. And for the Bucs, I mean, that's a good thing because their wide receiver core has really had to step up in the past few weeks with a lot of backups. But getting Mike Evans, what that does is it draws a lot of attention. You kind of heard Baker talk about that today. It does a lot more pros than cons having him back in the lineup. So I think just having more attention drawn to Mike from like backup defensive backs is really going to make it more advantageous for guys like Sterling Shepard, who has really been an underrated piece of this offense this year.
Yeah.
And then also the Johnson brothers. Excited to see what they do for an encore after the opening act that they had this past week when you had Tej Johnson in his 45-yard tutty. And then Cameron Johnson was the leading receiver. So what Mike does, he makes everybody better. That's something that Todd Bowles mentioned. And I think you're really going to see that come into play this week.
So excited to see them ball out. And you're absolutely right, Adam. It was a great job by the rest of the group stepping up when Emeka Egbuka, went out in that game. Cameron Johnson, first career catch and first career touchdown. Tez Johnson, first career touchdown. And it'll get overlooked a little bit, but I love that big play that Sterling Shepard had towards the end of the game, breaking a tackle, getting all the way downfield. But this team is at its best when you have Mike Evans and all of the attention that Evans is going to dictate in this game against Detroit. What I'm curious about the most, though, when it comes to Mike, is how much will he play in this game? I don't think it'll be just 30% of the snaps, but I don't think it's going to be like 95% either. What do you think is a good range percentage-wise for Mike to play in this game as he comes back?
I think a good range would be 50 to 60. Like, you still want him on the field. It would also depend on, like, the tempo of the game. How many offensive snaps? Does this turn into a shootout? Or is it more of a close game where possessions are few and even more valuable? But let's say it's 50 offensive snaps. I'd like to see him out there for maybe 30 of them. If it's 70 offensive snaps, maybe like 35, 40.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm thinking 70 snaps. Does that mean is it a shootout between both teams? Are the Bucs just having the greatest defensive performance of all time, and they continue to get the football back? I guess we won't find out until Monday's game, which is a doubleheader as well. I believe the Texans and the Seahawks play, but we're going to be tuned in to Bucs versus Lions. We have a video as well. This is Mike kind of warming up, making some catches, and then also some words from head coach Todd Bowles and quarterback Baker Mayfield on what it was like having Mike back and what it means to have him in the lineup as well. Just bear warning as well. Some of this doesn't have volume because as the Bucs are warming up, there's like Meek Mill playing and Rick Ross playing. And while we like Meek Mill and Rick Ross, well, I don't want to speak for you, Adam, but Meek Mill and Rick Ross are pretty good. Right? Yeah. Rick Ross, the boss, blowing money fast. We don't want to get a copyright strike. So there's no music in the beginning with Mike warming up. You will hear Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield talk as well. So let me pull up that video real quick and everyone can go and see it. Oh. So yeah, a little bit of running, a little bit of stretching here and there. Again, this is where there's no volume going on. Not a ton of air on the jumps there.
No.
I wouldn't be overly worried, though.
When you're 6'5", you don't need a 40-inch vertical.
Yeah. And then he'll be making some catches in a little bit. And the
What's in that water bottle?
Mike's secret stuff. Some people are worried as well, like, oh, he's not wearing his jersey. He put his jersey on a little bit later. So
yeah.
What, 12 days? Yeah, that's a good trip. Wednesday to Saturday. Yeah, that's a good trip.
This is what fans want to see. Him catching passes again. It's been a little bit.
Like, I get it. The stretching is so-so, but we all want to watch him catch passes and stuff. A little one-hander.
Especially one-handed, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Practicing today, what was he able to do? And just on the macro, what does it mean to have the number one receiver backing up potential plays?
He was limited. He did some things. Obviously, he did some things very well. We just got to monitor it throughout the week. But just to see him in the helmet right now, coming out there in the jersey and doing some of the things that he's doing is very encouraging for us. He draws a double team. It helps the run game, number one, because it keeps a safety out of the box plus another corner out of the box. And obviously, he's our go-to guy when he is healthy, obviously. And because of his size, his height, his intelligence to adjust off of routes and everything else, and every little thing he does, it causes a problem for the other team, and it makes our other guys better.
Potentially in this game, how does it change? Obviously, he's a Hall of Fame talent, but the ability to predict what coverages will be and when, how's that all kind of mix in there with the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Mike draws a lot of attention, so you have to expect that, and then for our coaching staff, which they've done a great job, is how to get him isolated in one-on-one situations, how to get him the rock, and we have to take advantage of those opportunities. But also understanding the other side of it is when he does draw a lot of attention, guys have to step up and do their jobs at a high level. So there's a lot more pros that come with it than cons. So yeah, he gets double teamed every once in a while, but that's just an opportunity for somebody else to step up.
What's your reaction when you see him step out there and with their teams in practice?
It's a good safety blanket. It's nice to see him out there.
So there's a pretty funny moment as well with Mike entering practice. David Stackman says he actually came out in pads and a jersey, and I laughed because no one else was wearing them. LOL. Yeah, he warmed up, then he went back inside, and when he came back out the second time, no one else had shoulder pads on, but Mike had shoulder pads on, and then it was like, oh damn, like I didn't realize we weren't practicing today. So he's looking like he is ready to go. The streak, to me, with 1,000 yards is still intact as well. I think right now, with 11 games to go, Mike would need around, 80 yards per game. And
yes, that sounds right.
It's manageable. I think the biggest thing, especially going against this Lions team that's depleted and won't have Brian Branch because that suspension was upheld, I think winning is most important. But if they can find a way to win and get Mike over 100 yards, that knocks that average down to 70 yards or maybe even 60 yards, whatever the case may be. And that can get him really back on track to getting 1,000 yards once again this season.
Yeah, so he needs 860 more receiving yards. But as you mentioned, all it takes, and Mike, every year, he's going to have that one or two games where he has 130 receiving yards, 150, and that'll just eat at that number little by little. So wouldn't worry yet if he comes back this week. But again, it might kind of be a slow ramp-up period, especially, as we mentioned, if he doesn't play a ton of snaps. But his impact will surely be felt, especially with the Lions secondary that's a little bit lacking.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the topic of injuries as well, Mike Evans was not the only person to return. Zion McCollum was back out there. He's got a brace on his hand. And Benjamin Morrison was in there too. I believe Todd Bowles said they both practiced in full, which is awesome. And it's crazy to think they go from not having Jamal Dean 2 weeks ago and Benjamin Morrison, but Zion McCollum's in there and did a solid job, to then not having Zion and, of course, Benjamin Morrison again. Jamal Dean comes in, wins NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and now it's looking like they're going to have all three corners available for this game on Monday night, along with Jacob Parrish, who has done a really good job during his rookie season, playing several positions too, going from the slot to outside as well, depending on who's in and out of the lineup. I'm loving that this secondary is getting to full strength because it is the strength of the defense, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, and for the Bucs defense to really tame the Lions this week, they're definitely going to need the secondary to create more turnovers. And you saw that last week and the effect it had with Kindle Vildor, Jamal Dean, both getting interceptions. And when you're playing good teams, you need to win the turnover battle. And I know everyone talks about like the wide receiver room and their excitement when they're at full strength. But Matt, I'm just as excited to see the secondary play at full strength for a stretch of a few games because Todd Bowles was talking about it today, and just the pass defense, it's communicating more, and they're playing far better than they did last year. And I think that's a very telling statement because they went out there, they drafted a couple cornerbacks, but what production they're getting out of Jamal Dean, who is one of the best cornerbacks in football this year, believe it or not. I think just getting all the pieces back together in this game against Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, they have a good offense, and Jared Goff, he completes pretty much every pass he throws. It's absurd. So the secondary, I'm really excited to see them on Monday night.
Shout out to Evan Winter from A to Z Sports. He tweeted this out before that Jamal Dean is the only cornerback in the league right now to have 2 interceptions and no missed tackles on the season. Granted, he missed a game, but still, that's a hell of a stat. And it's not just like, I think sometimes we all look at players and we're like, oh, this player's either amazing or they're terrible. And it's like, well, that's not really the case when you compare it to the rest of the league and what each team has in their own situation. So when you see Jamal Dean look pretty good against the Jets and he has a pick 6 and he takes it to the house, it's easy to say, oh, well, he's going to be a Pro Bowl corner. And it's like, all right, well, what about what's going on with the rest of the league? When he's getting weekly accolades like NFC Defensive Player of the Week, that solidifies that he is one of the top corners in the league. I'm very happy for Jamal. He's great to talk to in the locker room. He's been here for quite a while. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he's getting the job done certainly at the right time with him becoming a free agent this offseason. He is playing himself into a big-time contract. I hope it's back with Tampa Bay, but he's going to get paid one way or another. It's just so funny, again, looking at this team where it was a weakness last year, and a lot of that was because of the injuries. But now we're seeing the injuries again. They're able to overcome it. And hopefully none of these players will be out for too much of long term. Like Jamal Dean only missing 1 game is important. Zion missing only 1 game is important. Benjamin Morrison's a little bit of a different story, but we'll cut him some slack because he is a rookie. But man, I mean, you're a big cars guy. There's going to be a ton of speed in this game between Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams versus Jamal Dean and Zion McCollum specifically.
Matt, it's funny you mentioned that because I saw an Instagram reel the other day. It was Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka. And it was,
right,
the King Strip Weathers is Mike Evans. You got Chick Hicks as Chris Godwin. And here comes the rookie. It's Lightning McQueen. I mean, that's the Bucs wide receiver core right now. And as you mentioned, I think the silver lining on the injury front for the Bucs is that none of these injuries, outside of maybe Luke Gedeke, who we can talk about a little bit, are more than like 1 to 2 weeks away. Like Bucky Irving, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, they should all be back into the fold at least after the bye week. And then you expect Jalen McMillan to return in December. And Luke Gedeke, he's eligible to return this week. They haven't opened up that injured reserve window yet. But overall, like you're seeing a lot of these reinforcements come in at the right time. And then after the bye week, when they're playing the Patriots, when they're playing the Rams, the Bills, they have another slate of tough games. They're going to have more guys to work with.
They absolutely do. I also want to reiterate, while they will be the favorite, no doubt about it, the following game next week against the Saints, just the Saints are more scrappy than I think a lot of us would have imagined. Like they're not rolling over and dying. So I'm not saying this is a game next week where the Bucs can't just show up and be like, oh, well, we're better than the Saints. We're going to kick their ass. I'm just saying keep an eye out for that. I'm not saying the Saints are going to upset them. But yes, reinforcements are on the way, and Luke Gedeke is certainly one of those gemstones that you could put into the hand of Thanos to get all of them or whatever it was called. But let's talk about Luke Gedeke. What did Todd Bowles have to say today about the starting right tackle of this team?
Yeah, so of course, obviously he hopes that he's back, but he was asked by a reporter, like, do you expect him back by the end of the season? He's like, he should be. And he said that with a little bit of, I don't know, maybe caution. And he didn't give an exact estimate of when he will be back until he sees him back out there on the football field. So right now, like we saw Luke Gedeke walk out of the locker room today, like he's not using a scooter or anything. He hasn't for a couple of weeks now, but you wonder how close is he to 100% because, they're going to be playing Aiden Hutchinson this week, and that's going to be a really tough test for Charlie Heck. But if he's not back after the bye week, and they're playing some really good defenses, like Mike Vrabel's unit is always really solid. He did that with Tennessee. True. He's doing that in New England. The Rams and what they've done, getting Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, like they're not a unit that you can look and gloss over either. So for Luke Gedeke, I think for this offensive line, I know we did a roundtable this week about which Bucs player you want back the most. The answer is all of them, but I think most important is going to be Gedeke for that offensive line and what he does protecting Baker Mayfield.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, it starts and stops with the trenches for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as it does for a lot of teams. But we've seen Baker's had a good amount of time to throw. And yes, he will scramble when he needs to, but he doesn't want to. He wants to get rid of the football. And I'm very curious with that, too. There's no doubt they are better with Luke Gedeke in the lineup. And when Charlie Heck first came in, remember, Gedeke got hurt against the Houston Texans. they struggled, but the Texans, I give more credit to the Texans defense than necessarily just
Yeah.
the Bucs offense not getting the job done. And they did get the job done, certainly when it mattered most. The more reps that Charlie Heck is getting, the better it is for the team until Luke Gedeke is able to return. Now, the Bucs, I mean, they looked fantastic offensively against Seattle 2 weeks ago. They really brought it in the second half against San Fran with some big-time plays. There is no rest for the weary with the Bucs when you have Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson, who had 5 sacks against this team last year. And then, as you mentioned, after the bye with New England, LA, I mean, the Bills, I'm sure by then, first of all, they have Bosa, but also I'm sure by then they'll kind of work out some of the issues that they currently have going on right now with a 2-game losing streak. I wonder, you're not going to put Charlie Heck on an island too much. I wonder how much we'll see Payne Durham, how much we'll see Cade Otton, who has excelled as a receiver the last 2 games, but damn, they got to find other ways to kind of combat what Aiden Hutchinson can do. I think Charlie Heck deserves some credit. Like, he's not a turnstile by any means.
No.
He has one blow up every single game. You just hope that doesn't happen with Aiden Hutchinson. And I think Josh Grizzard is smart about it. Baker's smart about it. They're not going to get into a Justin School situation of what happened last year. They can't allow it, and they'll just adjust the offense accordingly to it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you mentioned the one kind of blow up that Heck has a game, and it came early last week against Michael Williams. Like he completely bowled him over. But after that, I thought Heck really settled in, and he was a big reason for the offensive line's relative success. And I was talking to Graham Barton in the locker room today and just kind of asking him about the offensive line. And he said, we haven't played our best football the past couple of games, but what we have been is consistent. And they've been putting together really consistent performances up front. And I think that's allowed Baker Mayfield, as you mentioned, have time to throw, but then also stick with Grizzard's game plan enough to really attack downfield and open things up for the rest of the offense. So it really starts with the guys up front and all the work that they put in. But I think for this week, you're going to see maybe 1 or 2 tight ends on the right side. You could put Wirfs on an island, but Charlie Heck, you probably shouldn't, especially against Aiden Hutchinson. But a big point of contention last year was Liam Cohen. How is he going to adjust to not having Luke Gedeke? And I think, Grizzard, he saw that up close, and he's going to learn from that.
Yeah, I think he has to. And, of course, he experienced that, too, being there last season as well. What was that comment I want to get to? Oh, Key to Villain says, I low-key want Wirfs on Hutchinson. I would love to watch that match.
Yeah.
But if you're the Detroit Lions, why would you have Aiden Hutchinson go up against Tristan Wirfs, which is a great matchup, when you could take advantage of a matchup of Aiden Hutchinson against Charlie Heck? Now, there's other stuff to get to with this offensive line as well, because Luke Haggard didn't practice today. So that means it's kind of open tryouts right now for who's going to be starting at right guard. Now, Elijah Klein came in for that last game, and he did have a start as well when the Bucs were hosting the New York Jets. They could go Elijah Klein. They could go Dan Feeney, but also Michael Jordan returned to practice today as well. So I kind of think it's a good problem to have for the Bucs, where you have Klein, who has starting experience. Jordan, they won each game that he started and is a veteran in this game. And Feeney might be the most smash mouth type of lineman that blends in with this team, with his mullet and everything like that, maybe more than the other two. So I feel like it's a good problem to have for Tampa Bay going into this game.
Yeah, because usually when you lose your starting right guard for the season, you're like, oh no, who's going to fill that void, fill that hole? And I think for the Bucs right now, they have 3 quality options. But I'm curious because, like, Feeney has the most experience. You mentioned like he could replace Mauk's hair, having that mullet. But I think Michael Jordan actually has I would say he's probably the best option if he's 100%, just on the fact that, in week 1, when they were adjusting everything, he played a really solid game. And Elijah Klein, I think he's still learning, still making that full-on transition, because he seemed a little average, more like just a guy when he was on the field. But I think Jordan could be a little bit better than that. And then Feeney has that experience.
Yeah, also true. I don't think there's any wrong decisions. I'm not going to get on Kevin Carberry's case. I'm certainly not going to get on Todd Bowles or Josh Grizzard's case as well. So it'll be something that we'll pay attention to Something that we can't really like tweet out, but if we get a look at the starting offensive line, maybe we'll kind of wink, wink, and hint at that a little bit as well. Here's a good hint for everyone, too. The best people to work with when it comes to your insurance and your insurance needs is Briar Greaves Insurance. Probably know by now, Pewter Report Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. So visit briargreavesinsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. So whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 hurricanes that happened last year have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. Visit briargreavesinsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S. Or call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Also, another reminder, I know I said it at the beginning of the show, but I'll say it again. Give Briar Greaves Insurance a call. See how they can help you with your homeowner's auto, flood, boat, or business insurance. Let them see what prices they can find for you versus the prices that you already have. And you will be entered into a raffle to win free tickets for Bucs vs. Falcons on Thursday Night Football in December. It's the Creamsicle game. Their tickets in the lower bowl of the stadium at Raymond James Stadium. So give them a call, get entered into that raffle, and who knows, you might be sitting with pretty good seats to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got a couple of super chats to get to.
Yes, we do.
So, without further ado, we'll start it off with Bucs Basement. Thank you for the $1.99. Not happy with the Bucs defense. Says, Bucs D couldn't even tame the Jets. I don't think that's exactly true. If you recall the game, the Jets had like 3 to 10 points going into the fourth quarter. Now, the Bucs did keep their foot off the pedal a little bit in that aspect, but at the same time, they got the 4th and goal stop. I still am racking my brain to understand how they called that a catch for Allen Lazard. And let's also remember, the Jets didn't take the lead until it was a blocked field goal by Will McDonald. That's not the defense's fault. If you want to get on their case about their performance against Seattle, I'm with you. That didn't look good. But look how they bounced back against San Fran the following week. 19 points allowed, only 3 points allowed in the second half, 6 sacks, a couple of turnovers. I think they were able to bounce back in a big way. Now, this is a different test against Detroit, but I think that Seattle game is more of an outlier, and the Jets late in the game was just very different too.
Yeah, and I think what you could say about the Seattle game and playing the Jets is the fact that the Bucs defense played well for a half. I mean, in the Jets game, they limited them in the first half, and as you mentioned, really until the fourth quarter. But also in the Seattle game, Matt, the Bucs defense only gave up 7 points. It wasn't until the second half that things really started imploding. So I think for Todd Bowles and what he did for his unit, like they can play a really good half, but in San Fran, they did it for a whole game, and they had the pressure. And what I really liked about the pressure is, although most of the sacks, I think all of them came in the first quarter and the fourth quarter, you saw a lot of adjustments made throughout the game. There would be whole drives where, they didn't dial up the blitz, and then they dialed it up. They kept Mac Jones off balance. He didn't know what to expect out there. And so I'm really encouraged by that performance. And then kind of going forward, having those defensive backs, Zion, BMO, if he comes back, and seeing the secondary intact, the pass rush looks a little bit better. I mean, all the pieces are there for success, and I think you're going to see that start to sustain itself over the next couple of games.
I want to see the Bucs be very blitz heavy against Jared Goff and the Lions offense, because I think Goff is a guy that reacts quickly. He sees who's open and he goes for it. He doesn't like to stay in the pocket for too long. So I think if you have to ramp up the timing of when Jared Goff has to get it done, then that's when you go and you blitz aggressively. And having Zion and Jamal Dean helps with that, because you could trust them a little bit more with one-on-one opportunities. Or hell, you can blitz them. We saw that the blitz with Jamal Dean led to a strip sack in the game for him and helped them win NFC Defensive Player of the Week. So I hope they are blitz heavy. I'm not saying blitz on first, second, and third down, but if they blitz on 2 out of the 3 of the downs for a majority of the game, I have no problem with that. Now, they will adjust on the fly as well, but don't let Jameson Williamson get down the field. Don't let Amon-Ra St. Brown break into his route with Jared Goff having some time. I hope it's a good game for Yaya Diaby and Hassan Reddick. I don't know if they will be able to stack what they did last game, especially with Penei Sewell at offensive tackle and how Goff gets rid of the football quickly. But the way that the Bucs were able to kind of stifle Jared Goff last season, I'm not saying you do the exact same thing, because now they're going to have a game plan for it. But I want to see an aggressive blitz-heavy group.
I do too, because Goff has completed 75.9% of passes. Like, that's an absurd level of passes that he's completed. And Bowles mentioned today that he's good on balance with his throws, but also off balance. So I think, as you mentioned, it's better to blitz. It's better to try to keep him off balance when you have Jameson Williams, who's going to be an absolute burner, and then someone in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I had a Bucs defensive back tell me today that he's not a burner. Like, all he is a straight possession receiver. He averages 10.3 yards per catch, not only this season, but in every game he's played against the Bucs in his career. He's just a high volume target guy. But if they can shut that down with Zion McCollum, Jamal Dean playing tight coverage on him, like, Bowles wants to plaster these wide receivers. And I think if he does, that's going to limit Goff's efficiency. And if they're sending in heat, then that's getting more sacks. So I think having more health is going to complement the pass rush and what the secondary can do.
Bring the heat for sure. I like that this super chat, and thank you to Mopar Buck for the 1999 super chat. I like that this super chat matches the creamsicle. So, but anyway, thank you so much, Mopar Buck, for the 1999. Says, good afternoon. I'm late, but what's the reason or the issue with Bucky's injury? The type of injury he has. Typically, it's a 12 to 16 week natural heal time if surgery isn't needed. A shoulder dislocation is bad for a running back. Yeah, I'm concerned for Bucky, and Bowles hasn't been exactly specific about it. He just says he's got a shoulder and a foot, and that's a part of the problem, is that it's not just one injury; it's 2 injuries at the time. And I don't know. Bucky was kind of going bonkers on social media, posting stuff to his Insta stories. I know we spoke a lot about that last week. I don't think we see Bucky back until after the bye. I don't think we see Bucky back until maybe middle of December. I'm not reporting this. That's just my overall speculation. The good news is the Bucs can get by without Bucky Irving. Rashad White has proven to get the job done. And I think the more that Bucky is out, the more that we will see Sean Tucker. He actually did a much better job pass blocking than I would have imagined, and had a nice run to the outside for a touchdown. Could have walked in, to be honest with you. But I think they obviously trust Rashad White. They trust Bucky as well when he's in the lineup. Hopefully Bucky can come back soon. He wants to play through pain. I think that's part of his Instagram post. He had a post of Michael Jordan and Kobe and a couple of different players that have played through a lot of injuries. I think we'll see Bucky this season, but I wouldn't expect it for another, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and to the super chat, there's another comment here I want to get to along the same lines, and kind of what you were saying by Cali Bucks here. Bowles is never going to be transparent about injuries. And I will say, the more tight-lipped he is about a player, the worse the injury typically is. I mean, that was the case with David Walker, J.J. Roberts, Jalen McMillan. Like, when he does, and even Luke Edeke today, when he doesn't really mention what's wrong with a player, the more severe it seems like the injury is. And so for the first instance with Irving's injury, you just heard about one injury, and then that shoulder injury came about, and you're like, oh, there's another one. And so I think I would agree with you that Irving isn't going to be back until after the bye week, but the Bucs can have confidence and still running a similar style offense with Rachaad White. That was another thing I talked to Barton about, because it seemed like in San Fran, playing against them, what White was doing is he was fighting for every single yard. And you've kind of seen him increase his efficiency since being a rookie. And what he told me is that, he just sees where the hole opens up. And he's kind of that complete back who he can take a high volume of carries. He can be a receiver out of the backfield. He pass protects like no other. And then you can also play him on all 3 downs while sprinkling in Sean Tucker. So I wouldn't worry about the Bucs run game right now, and not Bucky Irving until we learn more. It just might be a few weeks until that happens.
Yeah, and he's not dancing around as much as he used to. By the way, the injury report came out. I've gotten so used to the Bucs playing West Coast teams, and the injury report's not coming out until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. But here is the full injury report for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lavonte David is on it with a knee and a rib injury. He did not participate. Riley Dixon did not participate. It was a personal matter. Emeka Buka, hamstring, did not participate. Chris Godwin Jr., fibula, did not participate. Luke Haggard, shoulder, did not participate. Bucky Irving, foot, shoulder, did not participate. Josh Williams is still in concussion protocol, so he didn't practice. Mike Evans was limited with a hamstring injury. Zion McCollum, thumb, practiced in full, and then Benjamin Morrison practiced in full as well. For the Lions, Terrion Arnold, their corner, shoulder, didn't practice. Kirby Joseph, their safety, and Baker Mayfield even said today their defense goes through Kirby Joseph. He has a knee injury. He didn't practice. Avonte Maddox, hamstring, didn't practice. DJ Reader, back, did not practice. That's a defensive tackle. Running back, Sione Vaki, groin, didn't practice. Taylor Decker, their tackle, shoulder, was limited. Zach Cunningham, their linebacker, with a hamstring, practice in full. And then defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, who I believe was on injured reserve for them. Excuse me. He practiced in full. So there's a chance he makes his debut against Tampa Bay, which certainly gives them a boost. So that's the injury report. I think Friday will be a little bit more telling. Sometimes they just give players a little bit more time off. That's especially the case with Lavonte David. So we'll see
Matt,
on that one.
I know you're a big Shaquille O'Neal fan.
I love Shaq.
One of his popular phrases is barbecue chicken. And that Lions secondary is looking like barbecue chicken right now, because you have Kirby Joseph and Avonte Maddox, 2 other defensive backs, 2 veterans. And for Joseph, one of the best safeties in football, not named Antoine Winfield Jr. The fact that they both didn't participate today, that only points to, going ahead to Monday. I mean, it's still a few days away now. Yeah. But if they're not going and you add in like Arnold, like who's left? And Baker Mayfield, he knows how to find the holes in the defense. And if he has Mike Evans back, Evans might have a bigger game than you might think.
That's what I'm saying. And it's oddly similar to last year when the Lions got bounced in the playoffs by the Commanders, because they just didn't have anybody on defense with all the injuries that they sustained. So we'll see. Sunshine and Lollipops Cat, thank you so much for this $5 super chat. Says, Dean stated it's not about the money. Doesn't want to go somewhere and learn a new system. Bowles' adopted son. Yeah, they do have a very close relationship. I think that's why you can see Todd Bowles is busting his chops a lot in interviews and press conferences, whether it's about, hey, let's get him drug tested, or that was the greatest play I've ever seen in my life, and all of this stuff. Dean's wired differently. I think that's fair to say. And he's not exactly a guy that's going to go, I need to be the highest paid corner. I think he'd be fine with, like, all right, give me this much, and I don't have to move. I don't have to hire movers and look for a new house or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying it's the end of Jamal Dean in Tampa, despite the fact that he's going to be a free agent this year.
Yeah, and what I'm curious is, like, Dean, he balled out in 2022 and got a big contract, and he's doing so far so good this year. It's like, do you just keep re-signing him to one-year deals where he feels that pressure and a chance to really perform and earn a payday? But Matt, I'm curious what you would think a payday for Jamal Dean would be. Like, do you see his next contract putting him higher than Zion McCollum and maybe into the upper tier of cornerbacks, like 18, 20 million a year?
Yeah, let's see. We actually had a question about this on yesterday's show about like Baker and what he would get paid. So right now, the highest paid corner per year, average per year, is Sauce Gardner at $30.1 million. Let's see. Trayvon Diggs is 19.4. McCollum 16.
I think in between both of those, right? Like as a veteran corner.
Yeah, I would. Carlton, you'd probably match Carlton Davis at 18 million. I think realistically, that's what he can get. Maybe a little bit more, because I think teams got to factor in as well. Yes, you're a veteran, but you're a little bit older, and the fact that he's injury prone, I think teams may be a little bit bullish on that because he has gotten injured before. And I hope he doesn't miss another game this season. But if I'm a GM, I'm going, all right, there's a lot of talent there, but what are the odds that he's going to have to miss 4 games next season, or whatever the case may be? So, yeah, I think right around that, right around McCollum, maybe a little bit more, 18, 19 million. That could be where he ends up. But I think it's a good question. It's good food for thought.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be poetic if he matched what Carlton Davis got.
Yeah, right? Just a couple seasons later. Eric Moreno, thank you for the $2 super chat, says, any concern about Levante David for Monday? I think it helps he's gotten an extra day off. Remember, he is a veteran. He's 35 years old. I won't be concerned until Saturday. If he's not practicing Saturday, then there's a major issue. Levante, for how he slowed down, he's still making impact plays. I mean, we know what happened in Seattle. He had a big sack last week, almost a strip sack as well, very close. So they definitely still need their leader.
Yeah, he has 2.5 sacks this year, I believe. So, like, he's still able to get after the quarterback, make those game-changing plays. And for David, like, the fact that it's a Monday game and today's the first injury report, I mean, they had to list his injuries, but it also just kind of seems like a rest day, right? So as you mentioned, like if he's not out there on Saturday or even tomorrow, maybe you can raise a little bit more concern. But I think for now, David is in line to play, I would imagine.
And he plays 100% of the snaps too, every single time, which is crazy, but more power to him. Brian Shucker, one of the nicest people ever, does this almost every single show with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Says, no question, just thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brian Shucker. And this is probably a good opportunity to say thank you to you and thank you to our Pewter Platinum members as well. We couldn't do this show without each and every one of you. So thank you to Scott Federico, Rayful Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel L. Rican, Sam, John Del Morris, Zap Brannikin, RP89, Connor Four Reels, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, Dominic Tarantino, HK Bucks, Brayon Pinkney, The Real Maverick, The Guy is Gifted, Brian Shucker, who we just mentioned, and Steven Zool. Appreciate all of you for your support of PewterReport.com. Just a reminder, we got a Pewter Insider coming up tomorrow. That'll be with Pewter Platinum and Premier members, our bonus show for those exclusive members. That'll be tomorrow around 4 o'clock. We typically do it at 1:30, but this week the media schedule is a little bit different. So we're going to go a little bit later at 4 o'clock. It'll be right on our YouTube channel. We answer every question and comment that comes about on the show. And it's there as well if you want to watch it later the next day or Sunday or whenever. So we got the Pewter Insider coming up tomorrow on Friday. We also have the Pewter pregame show. That'll be on Monday. So there's no show on Sunday. The Bucs aren't playing. But we'll be back on Monday at 9 o'clock a.m. to preview Bucs versus Lions. We'll have the latest status on who's in and who's out. If there's any players questionable, we'll look at the biggest storylines and matchups going into this game. And then later that night at 7 o'clock, because the Bucs have the earlier primetime game, it's the Pewter Game Day show. Myself and Daniel Morales will have play-by-play, reactions, analysis, things we're seeing, and, of course, answering plenty of comments from everybody in the chat. So it's a lot of fun. We keep it super interactive, and we go crazy when the Bucs do well, and hopefully they will do well in this game. So still a lot to come up as well before, well, really, to start the next week. A couple more super chats to get to. Where do we leave off? We'll go with Tyler Level.
Thank you.
Thank you for this $2 super chat. Something I've been thinking about for quite a while now. Over under prediction at 52.5. I always struggle with some of these, talking about the total points that will be scored in the game. I struggle with any number that's over 50 because that's a lot of points. You're pretty much asking teams to score in some type of capacity on almost every drive, or you can't have those long 7-minute drives that take up a quarter. And I know we just talked about a lot of the injuries, but when the Lions still have Aiden Hutchinson and some pretty good linebackers too, the Bucs will be able to score. The big thing is, can the Bucs get to 30 points? Because I could see a game where the Bucs win 33-23 or something like that. But if the Bucs get out of the gate a little slow and then they pick it up, will it be too little too late? I like the fact that it's inside. I feel like that's more of a track meet type of thing. So I'm leaning towards the over, because also the over is just more fun to bet on if we're being realistic. It's a high number. I like the Bucs a lot more at +5.5. I'll tell you that. I'm leaning towards the over, but I'm not crazy confident about it. But what do you think, Adam?
One thing to consider is, like, if it's a 28-24 game, that's only 52 points. And, like,
right.
I have a hard time seeing either team really getting to that point total in this one for the reasons that we mentioned. And I don't know. I would kind of lean towards the under. It's not as fun to root for, but you look at last year's game, the fact it was 20-16, like, these
Also
are two
true.
really competitive, well-coached teams. So I think that's going to play a factor as well.
Also very, very true. That's a good point. Bulam Seba, thank you for this $4.99 super chat. Says, we're vulnerable in the middle of the field. Goff's best completion area connecting with the tight end. Do you think Bowles will drop more linebackers there, or Sarasier Dennis will have a spark as 2024? Well, we actually want to talk about Sarasier Dennis as well. Todd Bowles was complimentary of him, saying he's putting it together and he's looking like that player that he was in the spring. Adam, what do you think about Sarasier Dennis and this overall game plan for Tampa Bay?
I think Dennis, as Bowles has mentioned, has really settled in the past couple of games. I think the past 2 games, you've kind of seen him make more strides. The Seattle game wasn't perfect by him, but in the last game, you really saw him, like, attacking the football. He wasn't being beat, like going sideline to sideline. And I think that is a product of, stepping into that full-time role. Maybe the expectations were just a tad bit high for Sarasier, because you see him in OTAs and minicamp, when he's making interceptions, he's leaping up in the air, running all over. You're like, oh man, he's going to be a full-time star. And it just really hasn't clicked yet. But I think, as was the case with Jamal Dean, you're starting to see more signs. And being the second leading tackler, he's tied for the team lead in 5 tackles for loss. He knows how to be around the football. But I think for Voss, the next step for him is just playing faster. And I think Bowles has started to see the signs. And I'd be curious what he looks like maybe 3 weeks from now. I think he'll be a better player.
Yeah, he is incrementally getting better week by week. And it's funny because everyone was ready to run him out of town after the first couple of games. But I think that's kind of been what his career's been as well. Like, had a preseason game, looked terrible, got better. Now, injuries have been in his way, but thankfully, he's been able to play in every single game. And I thought his last game against San Fran, while Levante David definitely deserves a lot of credit, I thought that was probably Sarasier Dennis's best game of this season, without a doubt, being able to limit Christian McCaffrey, making tackles in the backfield with the TFL. Now, holding on to the tight ends has been another issue for Tampa Bay. And if I'm Detroit, I'm still going to try and exploit that. But I will say they've done such a better job of not allowing the running back to beat them in the passing game with those swing passes and stuff like that. So I think that's been very important for Sarasier Dennis. Not exactly he's going to say he's the linebacker of the future, but he's taking steps in that direction. And I hope Bucs fans are able to realize that as well, that he is getting better, and it's important to see that progress.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious, like, right now with Levante, you would assume that it's probably his last season, but Sarasier, I mean, he's in a point where it's make or break for him, because if he plays well down the stretch, he is the starter next year. If he isn't, though, will the team address the position kind of like they did the secondary this past year?
Oh, I think so, Adam. And part of that is because it is supposed to be a much better linebacker, inside linebacker class this year. So I definitely think this could be a blueprint copy of. And let's remember, the Bucs went corner in back-to-back rounds. It wasn't like they went one early and then they went one late. That's what they did at wide receiver. First round pick Emeka Egbuka, 7th round pick Tez Johnson. This year, they went Benjamin Morrison in the 2nd round and then Jacob Parrish right back at it in round 3. So there's no question, and we'll see where the Bucs are drafting, hopefully a 32. We'll see how they go about inside linebacker. I think it could be the same thing of 2-3 to get whoever you want first round, depending on what the team needs and where they need the most help, and then go with the linebacker position. So I think that's definitely in play. And then you're looking at Sarasier Dennis, 2 rookie inside linebackers, and then we'll see what other free agent signings they make. Gino Sisson, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, random question. If Grizz leaves to be a head coach somewhere, Mike McDaniels gets fired, you think he will come to the Bucs? Whew, that is an interesting one. Because McDaniel's offense is very complex. I mean, it does come from – he'd probably go to San Francisco, for being realistic, because he was there originally. He's got that relationship with Kyle Shanahan. He's got a relationship with Sean McVay as well, so he could end up going to the Rams. But if he wants to be a play caller, Tampa Bay is one of the best spots to go to because of Todd Bowles being a defensive coach. I think revamping the offense. Now, you will have a lot of these speedsters with Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson. Does it work with Egbuka and Chris Godwin Jr.? I mean, they'll find a way to figure it out. Jalen Waddle's looked pretty good in this offense, and he's not as fast as Tyreek Hill, who's now out for the rest of the year. I'd be open to it, but I don't know. I don't want to put into the air that Josh Grizzard could be leaving again after this season.
There's definite pros and cons to this, and I think this is more food for thought, because when you look at like McDaniels and the fact that Grizzard was under him, how much would like the offense change schematically? I mean, obviously you have the speed element, the fact that McDaniels, he likes Devon Achane, he had Raheem Mostert, Waddle, and Hill, and all those guys. Like, the Bucs really don't fit that, but at the same time, he is a bright offensive mind. You mentioned going to the 49ers. That's kind of like a head coaching springboard for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. I don't know how well McDaniels and Bowles would really mesh, but McDaniels press conferences would be cinema, absolute cinema every Wednesday.
If we had every day when we speak to the coordinators, which is typically on Thursday.
Thursday.
It'll be on Friday. If we had now each week they switch with the defensive coordinators, but if we had Mike McDaniel followed by Larry Foote, man, Thursdays will be one of the funnest days of the week based on the two of them. So it'll be something to monitor. Hopefully we don't have to monitor it, even though Josh Grizzard's doing a great job. But good question. Yeah, and Brian Shucker, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, with all the corners actually playing, how do they plan to use them going forward, you think? This is a good question as well. I think we'll see pretty much what we saw when Benjamin Morrison was able to be healthy, which is Zion and Dean on the outside, Jacob Parrish in the slot, and then Morrison will come in for a couple of plays to kind of give Jamal Dean a break. And I think that's important, knowing the injury history of Jamal Dean. But now with Zion and his hand, maybe Morrison comes in for Zion for a couple of times. So I think that's pretty much what you'll see. Maybe occasionally they'll move someone else into the slot, depending on the matchups and what's going on. But yeah, that's how I'd play it. What do you think?
I agree with what you're saying, but I'm really curious with Benjamin Morrison. Like, the fact that Jamal Dean's in a contract year, the year's progressing. Like, if he's fully healthy, does he eat more into that snap share? Partly because, give him reps right now, but also to preserve Jamal Dean, I think, going forward. Like, you want him healthy. The last thing you want is him to be off the field. But having all three corners, like deep play Zion maybe 90% of the time, Dean 75%, and then kind of have Morrison rotate in as that third corner.
I would like a rotation a lot, but we've just seen with Todd Bowles, he plays a lot of his guys 100%. But the door is open now that Dean wasn't playing 100% when when Morrison was available. So I hope we do get a rotation. And especially if Zion's going to be playing with a cast or whatever he's got going on, I don't know how you could play him the whole time if you want guys to take the football away. But we'll see for Monday. By the way, we got a lot of football coming up. Great college football on Saturday. We got a game tonight. Steelers-Bengals, I believe. Yeah,
Yes.
Steelers-Bengals.
The Unk Bowl.
The
Joe
Unk Bowl.
Flacco and
yes,
Aaron Rodgers.
And Aaron Rodgers. You'll be paying attention to that one. And, of course, some good games on Sunday as well. If you don't want to wait for the Bucs game, and you can do for the Bucs game as well, but make sure you get your bets and your quick picks in over on Splash Sports, the official daily fantasy sports app of PewterReport.com. You can join over 2.5 million people playing on Splash Sports. It's the home for Survivor, Pick'em, and Quick Picks. Whether you want to create your own contest with friends or take a shot at life-changing prize pools, Splash Sports has you covered. We still have our Splash Sports Survivor League going on. There's still a good amount of people still going in that one, myself included. So that's been a ton of fun. They have weekly contests and prizes as well with their quick picks. And they're also doing a weekend kickoff boost. You could use it for tonight's game with Steelers-Bengals. You can use it over the weekend as well, or you could save it for Bucs at Lions. Check your boosts on Splash Sports and lock in your picks. You can turn $20 into $1,000 with the best multipliers in daily fantasy sports. You can see my picks as well on Pewter Picks and Props. I'll have a video for tonight's game, some college football, some Sunday games. I'll add that on Pewter Picks and Props, and of course, Bucs Lions as well. So check out Splash Sports. You can download the app with the QR code right there on the screen and prove that you're the sharpest fan in Bucs Nation and the NFL by downloading the Splash Sports app and getting those quick picks in. So shout out to our friends over at Splash Sports. We appreciate them. And just one more reminder for everybody. We have tomorrow the Pewter Insider at 4 o'clock, the Pewter pregame show coming up at 9 a.m. on Monday, October 20th, and the Pewter Game Day show not long, or a little bit longer, after that at 7 o'clock p.m. for Bucs at the Lions. Before we sign off, Adam, any parting shots, things you're going to be paying attention to for Bucs versus Lions?
Yeah, well, the focus today, on today's show at least, was on the defense. I just wanted to briefly mention Baker Mayfield. He also had his press conference today.
Yeah.
I really liked his comment, Matt, about relishing the opportunity and the chance at playing a really physical, intense team in a really hard road environment. And I think this game, maybe even more so compared against the 49ers, is going to be that measuring stick. It's going to be how well do they match up against the Lions. And I really like the story of Baker Mayfield. Everyone does, but also Jared Goff and what they've both done to be MVP frontrunners. They're playing incredible ball. They've gone from underdogs to top dogs. And that's something I think the league is really captivated by. Both are really good stories, former number 1 overall picks. And this might be the game I'm most excited about this year. There's so many reasons to look at this and see it as maybe it's an NFC championship preview. Who would win that game and go on to the Super Bowl? I think right now you're seeing two teams that are playing good ball, but this game is going to be very important, I think, for playoff implications.
Absolutely. The winner of this game could get home field advantage in the NFC when the playoffs roll around. Now, the Bucs still have a lot of tough games. Their own division is a little bit tougher now, too. Atlanta looks pretty good after beating the Bills, and Panthers are good at home, but atrocious on the road. So not exactly a cakewalk for the Bucs, but it's been a lot of fun watching them get to a 5-1 start to begin the season. And hopefully they'll end up going 6-1 on Monday night after playing the Detroit Lions. This has been a lot of fun as well, but that's going to do it for us on today's show. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Patera saying thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon. Actually, just a reminder real quick, everybody, make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Give us your prediction of what you think is going to happen in the game. All right, that'll do it for us, and we will see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
out